Well, hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of White Sox Daily Live. My name is Ian Eskridge. I'm here with my co-host, the Danny Miller. How you doing, Danny?
Doing okay. Aside from a little sound snafu here on my end, which corrected before next week, but doing all right, man. Watching some playoff baseball, two championship, league championship series that are going to 7 games apiece. 7 game, game seven of one of them happening right now.
Yep.
Or yeah, yeah. So watching Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber do some things in the postseason, and watching Jose Abreu finally get deep into October in the Battle of Texas down there with Houston and the Rangers going head to head. But yeah, everything's great being a White Sox fan here. How
Yeah.
about you, man? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. So I'm sitting here goofing with this thing. I'm supposed to have this chat thing working, and for whatever reason, like it didn't show up. It's supposed to show up in my window over here on the side, and it didn't show up, which
Yeah.
is really aggravating because I spent a bunch of time making sure that it did work and it was working. And then Push a Robot just put in, hey guys, and it's supposed to populate on my thing and it didn't populate on the thing. So that is a bummer. But other than that, things are great. Yeah, like you, just watching some playoff baseball, and it's been fun, like good playoff baseball.
It has indeed.
Lots of dingers and good pitching performances here and there, and it's been entertaining. So um, yeah, I'm good with that stuff. You know,
Yeah, and aside from the live chat not populating on our screen here, I will say that for those viewers who are here and haven't, Ian's been doing some little graphics updating on our stuff. Our borders are nice and silvery and animated, and the
yeah,
live is looking very neon in the White Sox Daily Live logo. And there's going to be some other fun surprises that'll pop up
yeah. There's some good
throughout
stuff.
upcoming shows. So
Thanks,
yeah,
appreciate it.
you you've been putting a lot of hard work and time and effort into improving the awesome professional quality of our backdrop here.
Or
So
something.
much appreciated on that, man.
Yeah, yeah. I don't understand why this ding dang thing's not working. I see now that's working. Oh, you know what? I bet you. I bet you I
Hey,
know exactly what it is. I bet you I made a change to it and didn't update the link because I'm a cotton-headed ninny muggins. Let me go ahead and do that.
ooh,
Yeah, so there's that. Let me go to the thing
get in there.
and see
Sorry, I've been going
chat
back and forth
settings.
here between ball and football, and I'm currently on football because well, I have a couple point lead here on my opponent who has San Francisco's defense. And I'm really hoping, God, don't shoot me here. I know all you Bears fans are gonna, get all over me for rooting for another team in the division. And I know Ian doesn't really Packer fan, but I am rooting for Minnesota to score as many points as possible here and take away some of those defensive points from San Fran. So if I get a little hype tonight for no apparent reason, you know why.
Yeah, I mean, I generally like football. I'm kind of just like kind of done with it, Like I just don't pay as much attention as I used to, and you know,
Well, spoken
um,
like a true Packers fan that's lost Brett Favre and
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
Hey man, I'll tell you what though, I had 30 years of good quarterbacking, and
You did.
like I'm just kind of, I don't know, just kind of over it. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Now you get to understand what it's like to be a Bears fan.
I mean, I guess, except for the difference being that I don't really pay much attention anymore. That's the difference. Like I used to pay attention to uh to football, and now I really don't. You know.
So it's kind of like being a White Sox fan. You don't want to pay attention. Probably would pay less attention to White Sox baseball, like so many others have in the recent months.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
like
I
you always say, there's always the minor league system, right?
exactly. Like this team has just been absolutely brutal to watch this entire year. So I'll take I'll take some fun in the playoffs from other teams because certainly didn't get it from the White Sox this year, which is unfortunate. But hey, what you gonna do? Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I had this thing working and it was working great, and then we started streaming and then it stopped working. So I'm not entirely sure like what the heck the deal is. I can type that in and it just doesn't show up. It's supposed to show up.
Well,
Yeah, that's aggravating, man.
yeah. What is the deal? What is the deal?
I don't know. I'm gonna sit here and try and figure that out, but you know, um, so
Yeah, we got some fun things to talk about at least a little bit tonight, don't we?
I mean,
It's not all doom and gloom.
no, um, yeah, I mean, there's some good stuff, and I know that there's a lot of people are talking about the Josh Barfield, uh, um, interview
His
with
interview with
Chuck Garfien. Yeah, that a lot of
the old
people are
Sox Talk podcast.
yeah, a lot of people are talking about it, and it's it's that is you know there's some good things that are coming from it, and like I don't know exactly, and the thing that we're gonna have to figure out here is like what is what are they going to be looking for? What are they going to we know that the roster is going to be a little bit it's going to be a weird one, right? Because there is there's going to be all sorts of guys that they have to figure out whether or not they want to, whether they want to keep them, whether they're going to trade them. And, like that's one of the things I wanted to go over tonight is, you know, when you're thinking about what is going on with the White Sox roster and what kind of moves you would like to see made, um, I'd kind of like to cross reference that with what they say that they're looking for. You know,
Okay.
like in the say he's saying that he's talking about improving the defense first off.
He did indeed say that.
Right.
Specifically when he was asked about right field, which, you know, Chuck pretty much alluded to what we've all been talking about. With, hey, look at
Hey, look
that.
at that! I got it
You
working. All
figured it
good.
out.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Just the thing was,
Nice.
I changed the link on accident and didn't update it. So
Roger.
yeah.
But
So
yeah, I just getting back to what I was saying. Chuck alluded to the fact that what we've been talking about for forever and a day here is that right field's been kind of a black hole for the White Sox, and you're talking about the moment where he asked him what Josh Barfield's idea was about that sort of thing, and he kind of was I mean he was asking a general question about the team, but right field kind of seemed to come into play during that whole part of the interview, and Josh had an interesting take on that, and I'll let you go ahead and run with that for just a minute. But I just wanted to kind of give our listeners who hadn't heard the podcast a little background on what was going on there.
yeah. Um. So like the idea that they're saying is that so many games are won and lost with defense, and as we've watched the White Sox for years now, it's no matter whether or not you have you know guys that are specific guys that are playing defense really well. you still have an overarching theme, if you will, that the defense is just bad, you know? And so he's saying that he wants to improve the defense first and foremost. So if we're going to go through the roster and figure out what we're going to do here, and I kind of want to, like I said, I wanted to cross-reference it with what they're saying that they want and guys that we think could go away. And I think that's kind of, we've been talking about the TA thing for a few years here.
Right.
About whether or not we want to keep him or not. And one of the big knocks on him all the time is his defense. Regardless of even when he was having a much better year with the bat a few years ago, his defense was still not top tier, and he's had years where his defense wasn't as bad, but we've still been talking about like these stretches of like a week or more where he'll just go and he'll have like 5 or 6 errors in 1 week, right? And that doesn't change whether his bat's going well or it's not. So, do you think that them saying the defense is going to be upgraded, that essentially that TA is pretty much one of those guys that's guaranteed to be gone?
I'm going to go with a resounding on that one.
You dipped out, so your audio disappeared. So I don't know what you said.
Hello?
Yeah.
Am I there? Am I
Yeah.
here? Am I back? Sorry about that. No, I was just going to say I'm going to go with the resounding yes on that one. Specifically just because we know that, he's got an option that they don't necessarily have to pick up. Your look on your face. Is my audio getting weird on you?
No, not right now.
Oh,
No.
okay. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, when and I listened, I hate to do this so quickly back to back because we know Monday nights does the,
The
I
au
listened to
jus.
his, what's that?
Yeah, the au jus. Yeah, you dipped out for a second. So, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and he does his thing earlier in the evening on Monday than we do. And
Mm-hmm.
he touched on this
Yeah.
during his show a little bit. And, I kind of have to agree with him where you talk about, uh, not picking up that option. And what he pointed out was that there have been teams in the past that, let's just say there's 61 win teams like the White Sox were this past season. And one of the quickest ways to add 8, 10, 12, 15 wins to go from a 60 win team to a 75 win team is to improve defensively. White Sox have been near historically bad defensively. So 2023 was just atrocious. 22 was not much better. You know, uh, so I have to think that, yeah, getting Tim Anderson when his bat was going was fine and it was fun to watch, but when it's not going, it's just bad all the way around. He's bad defensively. He's not hitting. There needs to be improvement on both sides of the ball. But again, if you can keep pitchers in games a little bit longer, where your starting staff is 4 innings, you're getting 5, 6, 7 innings because they're not throwing 30 pitches in a single inning because you got and extending innings for them. I think it can do wonders for the win-loss column for the White Sox team. Honestly, there's got to be somebody out there that can play better defensive shortstop, for a fairly decent price.
Yeah. Yeah, your audio is dipping out. I mean, I know what you're saying, but it has been dipping out a little bit. Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I don't see. He was like I think he was either a -16 or -17 DRS this year, and multiple times during the year, his mistakes would end up drastically changing innings, and a lot of the time would drastically affect the the results of the game. And I I have to think that when he talks about upgrading the defense, that right field, shortstop, and second base have to be among those things that he's talking about improving. And it got me to thinking that if I was going to, if I don't want to spend a ton of money because the budget's already, pretty screwed as it is, that you're not picking up that TA option, for 14 million because you're essentially paying 14 million dollars for subpar defense. And also, we don't know, as we've talked about here several times, that as the age goes up, generally the numbers don't get better, and I have to think that that's like kind of like just kind of like a forward of what's going to happen later on in the off season here. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what you're thinking as far as the infield goes. I mean, we think that TA is going to be gone. So what do you expect to show up there? Do you expect them to re-sign Elvis Andrus? Are you thinking guys from elsewhere, free agents, or are you thinking, are they going to, we know that Jose Rodriguez plays nice defense, and he's played second base and he's played shortstop. He's more naturally a shortstop, but I've seen him play both, and he's good at both. So maybe they re-sign an Andrus and bring up Popeye, or because I don't know. It's like Lenin Sosa. His defense is okay. He's not as good as Popeye is at defense. So, is that what you're looking to do? I got no audio at all. None. There it is. I got something.
Are we here?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, good. I just switched to a new mic, so hopefully that corrects the issue. Anywho, I was just gonna say, you know what, I'm not real sure if they're looking at Andrews and signing him, but I do kind of like the idea of a Popeye Rodriguez, specifically for the fact, like you said, we know he's pretty slick with the glove, and he's very athletic at either position. My only concern is and to be honest with you, it shouldn't even be that big of a concern because we've talked about it a lot on this show with Popeye. Once he's given consistent at bats, he seems to kind of figure things out a little bit. And I don't want to say that he's going to be outmatched when he comes up to the major league level. And let's just say they do make him a starter in this upcoming season because they are leaning heavily on a defensive turnaround for the team. But I just hope that it doesn't hinder his progress at the plate. And we've looked at all these new hires in the system, and I hate to bring this word up, but Josh Barfield brought it up during that interview with Chuck, where culture. Oh, that word! It makes my skin crawl. We've heard so much of it lately, but he did bring it up. And if they are instilling a new culture, and if they've got this new staff that's new eyes and new ideas, and he talked about guys that are going to grind out at bats. Jose's one of those guys that he can grind down at a bat. Like, but again, he's got some chase and some things he needs to work on. I just want to see somebody that gets on base and put some pressure on opposing teams, defenses, pitchers, across the board. So I could see the White Sox going with Jose Rodriguez. I could see them going outside of the organization, because that was something Josh also kind of touched on, was that it's pretty obvious to us that they're going to be bringing new people in. It remains to be seen who those people are. I'm not a big fan of the large majority of this free agent class for this season, so I'm not real sure what the direction. not the best for. I don't know what the Sox really have available to trade to the teams that isn't going to completely decimate the major league ball club to get anything of value back. So it's a difficult question to answer, honestly. And I kind of wonder, like, where's your head at on this whole thing? I mean, you're interviewing me, kind of asking me these questions, but I really would like to see where your head is on the infield. And not only that, let's just go ahead and throw Yoan at it too. And where's your head at on him with the rest of the infield?
Yeah, actually, that was I was going to be one of the guys that I was going to bring up next, and I'll just go ahead and do this. So just got his head bopping around here on the stream. Um, you know that's one of those things is that we know that his contracts can be really difficult to get rid of. And he plays a good defense. Now he's not, he's not Matt Chapman over there. He's not one of those guys that's just, light, Nolan Arenado, like that kind of thing. That's not what he does. But he does play a pretty decent third base, and he is not a negative when it comes to defense. And because his contract's so difficult to get rid of, you would think anyway. I mean, there might be somebody that might take a flyer on him and, for salary relief, just like give you like a couple of flyer A guys, And I mean, they might be willing to do that, I suppose, but I don't know if they're willing to move on. And the thing is that he's a good third baseman. So, and I don't think that Ramos is ready quite yet. I think kind of my feeling on the third base thing is that, he plays a good enough defensive third base that you wait for Ramos to see what Ramos does in AAA in the first half of the season. And if Yoan can manage to get the bat going pretty well and, kind of, at least hopefully give you, more or less what he was giving you for the last month of the season for the White Sox. If you can get that out of him, and if they can, one of the things that they're talking about, grinding out at bats. So if you're talking about getting Yoan back to his more selective self from a few years ago, you might be, cooking at that point, that he might be playing a decent, sort of at least earning his money, because it's been a rough one, but
right.
It's going to be so rough to get rid of. So that's kind of where I'm at on him, is that maybe they try and get rid of him at the trade deadline if they can, if there's somebody that's viable to take his spot, whether that be Lenyn Sosa, whether it be, Jose Rodriguez, who's played a few games at third base, not a ton, but he's played a few. They had him working out there in a couple of games this year. In Charlotte, I believe, is where he was doing it. But I think that they're still going to keep him unless they can get somebody to take him off their hands and just let them wash their hands of it and free up some more salary room. Because I kind of think that that's where Getz is headed, is trying to clear a bunch of the salary and get to 2025 where they're going to have a bunch of flexibility financially. That's kind of where I'm at at least with Yoan and more or less the infield. One question I have for you is that Andrew Vaughn has not been offensively the player that the White Sox thought that they were going to get with the quote unquote most developed, most ready to hit guy in college.
Yeah. Most MLB ready bat in his draft class.
Same thing with Madrigal. I mean, we've heard that a couple of times, and it just, it hasn't. He hasn't been terrible, but it hasn't been what they had hoped. So
It doesn't come as advertised for sure.
Yeah, and I mean to be fair, like, I know that he didn't play first base a ton for a few years because Jose Abreu was there, so they kind of were moving him into the outfield and have him DHing a lot. And but he played an entire year at first base this year, more or less. A couple of games DHing here and there, but mostly first base. I don't know as if I saw a market improvement in his glove over there. And if you're talking defense, and you're also looking at his offense, and you're not getting like anything spectacular from him there, do they move on from him as well? I mean, are we talking that the the Getz is just going to go through and just start cutting through the roster and just
I mean,
dumping guys?
they gutted the entire front office, right? Or the majority of it. They gutted the bench in the White Sox dugout, right? There have
I mean,
been
I
guys,
wouldn't go that far. You still got
well,
the
not gutted.
knucklehead that's the manager is
Yeah,
still
I mean
there,
Pedro's
unfortunately.
still there. Charlie Montoyo is still there, and apparently, it's shockingly to me, nobody's hired him as a manager somewhere else outside of our. I think the guy. I still say he got the short end of the stick in his previous situation, but
Yeah, because what
we're not going
happened
to
to the
get into
Blue
that.
Jays this year? You know,
Just saying.
because
Just
they
saying.
dumped him because he didn't do a whole lot the year previous, and that they started badly. Well, the guy that they hired, he ends up, getting them on this, crazy pace, and they get into the playoffs. They lose this year. They get into the wild card game, lose, into the wild card series, and they lose right away. They don't advance. So is it the manager, or are we talking like kind of like a White Sox scenario here? Where the guys are getting paid and getting announced as being the next big thing before they've done anything. And then meanwhile the
Right.
Orioles just come in and start punching everybody in the face. you know, Diamondbacks
Right.
come in and start punching people in the face.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. But when I say that, so maybe the bench wasn't completely gutted, but there was a few coaches that were maybe stayed past their tenure, their welcome here on the South Side. Debo. Everybody loves Daryl Boston for his years on the field as a player. But it was time to part with some of those guys. They made some. I see the faces you're making over there. I mean, this is
I mean, I'm
this,
just
it's a fun
saying.
show. It's a fun show. But yeah, so we we're looking at a big change organizationally, right? We're still talking about new hires and staffing spots that are still available and open. They're looking for a farm director. They've got some other staff holes that filled between now and hopefully soon. Actually, once the postseason finishes up here, but why not go ahead and just gut the product on the field? Because it's not like you can do much worse than you did this past season. Sox fans are pretty stinking tired of watching bad baseball when it was being shoveled, scooped. I don't even, what do you want to call it? Craned in front of our faces, this filth of, we're going to be a competitive team and we're going to have a sustained run of success. And this pipeline that we're going to have coming through the farm system to have, this long term success. And we just, I mean, it got worse and worse. It never got any better. We hit if the pinnacle of this whole thing was 2 first-round outs in the playoffs with 1 win in each of those series. Sox fans we're beyond irritated, aggravated with the stuff that they've been shoveling at us here. So yeah, I mean, honestly, if Andrew Vaughn's got to go, If you got to go, you got to go.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
yeah,
I just don't see the point in, like you haven't gotten anything really from him. I mean, he's a doubles hitter. Can't hit, doesn't hit 20 home runs in a season. Um, he's his. It's not like his batting average and OBP are really, setting the world on fire. He doesn't take walks. I
he's a
mean,
right-handed first baseman that is a foot shorter than every other left-handed first base there and doesn't hit the ball. The ballpark as often as we'd like.
yep,
You know, I would at this point I'm ready to chalk up all the losses from the last regime. I didn't want to admit to those things right away. I was lying to myself. I bought into this whole idea that the last regime, KW and Rick Hahn, were trying to sell us. I bought into it hard. And now I'm ready to say, you know what? These guys that have been there for the last couple of years, those are their guys. And we keep hearing about new eyes and new blood in the organization. Well, let's see what those guys got to bring to the table. Quite frankly, what happened before wasn't working.
yeah,
If what happens coming up next doesn't work, you're still going to be angry and upset, but at least they tried something. We're not spinning our wheels here. And, I really don't see any reason to fawn over guys that just aren't showing us anything.
yep. That's pretty much where I'm at. Unfortunately, I'm ready to say, you know, um, let's go ahead and just cut our losses and start, turning this roster over here. I wanted to hold on to these guys for as long as as we could, and give them the benefit of the doubt that they were going to get to a point where they were starting to whether it be healthy or return back to form, whatever nonsense you want to try and put out there for them. And
And here's the thing, maybe just maybe some of these guys were the guy who they thought they were drafting, you know. But problem is our development system has not been great, and we could have broken these guys. There's a lot of Sox fans that train of thought that, well, this guy he might have been good, but they broke him, they ruined him. So bad organization ruined these players. Excuse me. Then there's the other train of thought is maybe they just hadn't been uh, very good at identifying real talent. Either way, I'm ready to move on.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had this like a little bit of a Twitter conversation with Beefloaf actually a few days ago. Where I more or less said, I am more on the side of talent trumps development. If the guys that you find are average to below average, and the guys that you identify, if their talent is on the average, yeah, if your system can't develop a guy, okay, that's really going to show on those guys. But Luis Robert, he's very talented, and his development wasn't stunted. I mean, granted, there are some things that he needs to work on, and I think that some of the things that he needs to work on are in between the ears. And it's things that we.
Oh, there's no think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the things that we all see.
It's obvious.
It's you watch him swinging at outside sliders. It's one of those things that everybody sees, and he needs to work on. And that's like a thing for quite a few of the guys. But the thing is that the guys, they can go through all sorts of drill packages. They can sit here and put up numbers in the minor leagues when these guys aren't throwing elite stuff. And then when they get here, if they're not willing to adapt or they're not willing to change what it is that they're doing, when we sit here and watch it night in and night out of the exact same thing over and over and over and over again, if they don't adapt, That's on them. I can't say that that's on the development side of things. It's like I know for a fact, that Andy Barkett worked with quite a few guys on pitch selection. And you know what? When they did what they were supposed to be doing, their numbers shot through the roof. Like Luis Mieses 2 years ago, when he had worked on his pitch selection a ton, got a lot better. This year, like the super tack ball and the pitchers not knowing where the ball's going and the hitters certainly not knowing where the ball's going certainly didn't help. And then he picked it up in the second half a little bit. Yoelqui Cespedes. They said that he needed to work on his plate discipline. He worked on his plate discipline. In the first half of this season, he had more walks in the first half of this season than he had all of last year. So that, to me, says they're doing something right. The problem is that Yoelqui Cespedes is not the savior that everybody thought that he was going to be just because his last name's Cespedes. Okay? He's got a cannon for an arm, but the bat-to-ball skill, which is the thing that Scout said right out of the gate that was going to be the issue with him, guess what? He walked a bunch more, so they worked on that, and they helped him out with that, and his OBP went up. The problem is that his batting average was like 210 this year, all year. Like it never went higher than that, really. The problem is that
the power numbers were down.
Yeah, exactly. There is, when the talent that you sign is not up here, you're gonna run into a spot where guys run into their ceiling before they get to the majors, or when they get to the majors, they can't adjust. They can't make the adjustments and become, that guy that everybody was hoping for. It is what it is, And, it's like we can sit here and talk about development. I saw some tweets today about, Courtney Hawkins, about the White Sox ruining his development. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, they gave the guy like 8 or 9 years to do something, 8 or 9 years. And then he goes to, and then like last year he hit like 340 in the independent league. Okay. That's awesome. But like the thing is that, the only places that he really hit with the White Sox, like where he hit above average was A-ball. And for like, I don't know, 3 weeks in advance day once.
Right. He rose to the occasion against, subpar talent. When it seemed like he reached a peak where when talent met up with him, he didn't meet up with the talent.
Yeah.
And again, that comes back to evaluation, which is something that Josh talked about in that interview with Chuck. He talked about evaluation, but the other thing that he mentioned during that interview, which I really felt really made me feel like, okay, finally maybe there is that new eyes and he recognizes this. But when I believe it was in the same sentence when he talked about having good talent evaluation, he also talked about finding guys with good makeup. He mentioned this White Sox team on paper is a better team than where the D-backs were just 2 years ago. Before now that now they're going deep into the postseason, and he's proud of the work that he was able to accomplish in Arizona, which he absolutely should be. And the meteoric rise of that team in just a 2-year span, when they were a 66 win team or whatever it was just a couple of years ago, having good makeup. When I hear him talk about that, it makes you wonder. You talk about all the talent that's on this level, but how many of these guys don't have the right makeup to recognize their own talent, to further their own development? And he even talks about taking responsibility for your own development. Your coaches can teach you everything you need to be taught. It's up to you, and like you say, that space between the ears, to use that and have the responsibility to take the next step.
Yep.
And you can have a bunch of athletes and put a bunch of athletes together. You can have a bunch of Luis Roberts that everybody says they look like the Under Armour mannequin. But if you're not going to take that step yourself, if you're not going to take the responsibility, don't have the makeup. You can call makeup that fire, that will to, TW, TW.
Yep.
Right, exactly. You can take those things, and all that talent is not going to do you any good because you're not. You're probably not playing for the team. You might be out there playing for yourself, thinking, well, if I do what I need to do, then maybe things will turn around. But you really got to kind of look at this and say, I'm a baseball player, and I play for the third largest market in baseball, and I've got a great set of fans here who's passionate. Now it's up to me to go out there and give them the player that I should be, and just take responsibility for my actions on the field, off the field, in the locker room, in the clubhouse, in the gym, during practices, during preseason. A lot of these guys, I mean, we've heard the stories where, some of these guys maybe got lazy during the off season. Guys were coming in, you'd get the same rhetoric. Oh, they're in the best shape of their life. They're in the best shape of their career. And then you come in to spring training, you're going, there's no way this guy is in the best shape of his career.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So here it is, TW, TW.
TW.
Yeah. So when he talks about things like that, good makeup, it gives me a little bit of excitement to know that somebody is recognizing this. But then again, is he just saying what he needs to say? Because these are things that we as fans who are not even part of a major league organization talking about ages now.
Yeah, I mean that's a valid point. Is it just lip service? And I can't, obviously I can't say, but I do know, what I've seen from the D-backs. And I'm actually rocking my Kane County Cougars shirt today, who used to be the
Hey,
A-ball team for the Diamondbacks, and a bunch of the guys that are on the Diamondbacks currently were Kane County Cougars. Like I saw Alec Thomas, play in Kane
there you
County. I
go.
saw Geraldo Perdomo play there. Buddy Kennedy, who was up with the D-backs earlier this year, he's not on the playoff roster, but he's made a bunch of time, a couple call ups to the majors this year, and I didn't get to see Corbin Carroll because he went straight to advanced day. But I mean, um, you
He's
know,
pretty good.
he's awesome, yeah. And like the thing is, like when you listen to Josh Barfield talk, and he talks about his that just how impressive Corbin Carroll is in the minor leagues, and just his mindset when he's in the minor leagues. It's like, you know it's one of the things that I've heard, from a couple of little birds, is that Chris Getz, in the conversations with the prospects, some of the guys did not feel like he really cared about their situation. And from hearing from Josh Barfield, I can't imagine that if we went and talked to Diamondbacks prospects, that they would echo that sentiment about Josh Barfield. But the thing is that they're, as he said in the interview, that they're going to be hiring a farm director here soon, and I'm wondering who it's going to be. Like there's all these positions that are opened up, and we don't know who's going to take those positions. So we get to see that
Yeah, and
as this goes.
you gotta hope. You gotta hope that it's somebody that can nurture that mindset that he talked about with Carroll. Uh, and it's amazing to me for him to say that 9 years as their their development director down in Arizona, or at least 9 years with the organization. He
Yeah.
wasn't in that, but to hear him talk about these players and to say that Corbin Carroll actually taught him some things, and it was Corbin Carroll's makeup that is what he kind of learned some things from about this guy. Not just wanting to be the best single A player, not wanting to be the best double A player. He was already looking. Now, obviously, we're talking about a high end talent who was, this guy is he's like our Colson Montgomery. Everybody knew he was a guy when he was drafted, right? But he had that mindset of I'm going to the bigs. So how do I become the best big league player? Even he's thinking about these things even at the lower levels, low A and advanced A and beyond. And it just goes to show you that if Josh Barfield can learn from this young kid something like that, maybe it's something that he can take with him now into the White Sox organization and teach these kids. Because it sounds to me like it's that word again, that fire word. We need more guys with that fire in their belly, with that fire in their guys that want to go out and perform at a high level at the major league, in the major league ball club.
Yeah.
We haven't seen enough of that. And if he can instill just, you know, 10, 15, 20 more percent of that kind of feeling, imagine what it could do for that major league roster and the energy that it can inject in that dugout.
Yep, that's kind of what I'm thinking, and it's like, when I look at, we'll get to it in a minute here, but when I look at, who the White Sox are going to be looking to from the White Sox farm system, and like we talk about right field being a hole, and we talk about first base,
Imagine
like
that.
being like a little bit of a not necessarily a problem, but at least not getting the kind of results that you're hoping for. And a couple of guys that you look down in the minor leagues and see is Tim Elko putting up good numbers this last year, and he is one of those guys that is a leader, and is put up some eye popping numbers, over 120 games or whatever it is that he played this year.
Not to mention that he's a big target.
Yeah. Yep.
At first base.
Yeah, and I mean, like his glove isn't, like we're not talking about what's his name on the D-backs over at first base. I forget what his name is off the top of my head right now, but he's Gold Glove winner. When we talk about that kind of defense, yeah, you can't remember either. I can't remember his name. Most of these guys on the D-backs, like, people can't remember their names. That's fine.
Well, I mean, a lot of them just emerged.
Yeah. Here, I can look it up right here on the box score because I am that smart. Christian Walker. Gold Glover.
Oh, it was driving me nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Gold Glover at first base. And the thing is that, he's not that kind of glove, but, he does have, he's competitive, and, he puts together some good at bats, and he doesn't go chasing a lot of stuff, which is more than I can say, for what we've seen.
He's got big pop to all fields.
He does. And, I guess we could just move to the Arizona Fall League straight from that, because that transitions into like the Jacob Burke. When you watch Jacob Burke play baseball, situationally aware, uses all of his talents in every second that you see him play the game. The guy is a gamer, and he's got that fire to be a great player. He is a killer out there. And I'm not saying that he's ready yet to be a major league outfielder. There's going to take some time, but this is the kind of player that you're looking for. A guy that's out there, and when he's out there, he plays with his hair on fire.
Right.
And
100%.
The White Sox need a bunch of guys like that. You look at their, I mean, I know it sounds stereotypical, and we've been talking about it all year long, that they look like they were dead out there all this year. But it's true, unfortunately,
They were. That's the problem. They didn't just look like it, they were.
Yep.
The record reflects it.
Yep. So on the plus side of things, I haven't actually looked from tonight, so before I say something here, I'm gonna look at what's going on tonight out there before I say anything too crazy. Where are we at? See, we got the Desert Dogs are up 6-4 right now. So that means that um, that Eater might have given up a few runs. We'll see here. Let's see. Eater four.
Oh, you mean the guy that helped raise that farm system ranking?
Yeah.
One of those mid-season trade deadline acquisitions that Josh Barfield says we improved.
Okay.
I
So
don't. Not that I disagree. Honestly, I'll be honest with you.
yeah.
I
No.
would like to see Jake Eater be the guy that everybody's hoping he can.
Yeah. So you've got Jake Eater went 4 innings today so far, and 6 hits, 4 runs, struck out 4, no walks. So this is his worst outing that he's had in Arizona tonight, I believe. And it's still not considering what we've seen from some of the other guys. He gave up 3 in the first inning, and he didn't give up any home runs. So he just got. Let me look here right quick and see what the Scorpions have. Yeah, they've only got 2 doubles. That's it. They've got 2 doubles, and they've
All four of those runs are earned.
yeah, all 4 of them are earned, and there's 2 doubles and apparently 4 singles. That just all of them happen to score. But regardless, so Eaters looked good. Leisure's looked good. Fraser Ellard's looked good.
Hi, Mom.
Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it.
Hey, all right.
Yeah, look at that. Outlying sense. Yeah, so, like we've seen good things from on the field from Burke and from Ramos, who are both in the lineup today. Montgomery the other day got taken out of the game and got pinch run for, and we still don't have any idea what exactly is going on out there. And I talked to somebody today who's part of staff, and he says that he hasn't gotten any word, or at least he didn't divulge what he does know. So,
Knowing the White Sox, I mean, to see a guy go down to first base and immediately get yanked, you hope it's not a hammy.
well, there was like some weird stuff in that. And see, here's the thing: is that there was no stream, so I have absolutely no idea other than that he hit a single, and then there was an error on the play, and he made it to second base, and then he got
That's right.
pulled and got pinch hit for. And like other than that, I don't know. I don't know what happened. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out at some point here, and I don't know when that's going to be. So just waiting on news for that. Yosimar Kuzin, he's been getting roughed up, and he's been walking a bunch of guys. And when he tries to come back from those walks, he ends up leaving it middle if he gets behind in the count, and that's been ending badly for him. He didn't get a ton of work in season this year, and he's also taking a step up in competition. So maybe some of the things that might have worked in Advanced A against some of the guys that he's facing down there, it would have worked against. But in the Arizona Fall League, where all these guys are not necessarily top prospects, but they're all guys that do things that maybe it's just not working out well for him. And also, to be honest, the umpiring hasn't been great. There was some times in a couple of at bats in Eater's last start where it was just like, what is this? What is this guy calling? Because he's not, like he's hitting on the corner of the plate over and over and over again, and just not getting called. And it didn't matter which side of the plate it was. It was just over and over again where it was just not getting called. So, so I can't exactly.
Yeah, I saw the scorecards and they did not look let's just say there was some inconsistency.
Yeah, Fraser
That's true.
Ellard just came in, so that's good. I'm sure he's assaulting a rosin bag right about now. Um,
Ah, smash.
yeah, he's looked pretty good. I don't. Let me look here real quick. He's got a 3.6 ERA, and I'm pretty sure that most of that is from like 2 innings where he gave up like 2 runs or something like that both times. But he's looked really good. Addison Coffey has had a real tough time. He had his last outing. His first inning, he gave up a single and got out of the inning with no other damage. They brought him out for a second inning, and then they let him wear it. He walked 3 guys, and then I think he got the first out was a ground out to Montgomery, and then after that, I think 8 guys in a row got on base, whether by walk or singles, and just the singles or doubles, and it just kept on going and kept on going, and they just left him out there to die, you know. So
Sounds like somebody else I know.
yeah, and like the thing is, like, I understand, like that they're probably trying to get him some pitches, but with my personal feeling was that he's had a rough time out there in Arizona, and he finally goes out and has a good inning, and then they have him sit and then get back up, and then they send him back out there. And the second I saw him come back out there, I was like, no, what are you doing? It's like after the time that he's had, for him to go out and have a scoreless inning, and
Yeah,
then
let him go out on a high note.
exactly, let him build on it. Don't send him right back out. They sent him back out, and he got his brains beat in for a while, and I think he gave up like 6 runs that inning. And he's had some consistency issues out there. But like the movement's still nasty, and he's still doing good things out there. It's just consistency. Um, Anywho, yeah. So that's about it for the fall league. Ramos hit 2 home runs in 2 days the other day, which was nice. Burke
Yeah,
has hit,
he's been pretty good.
yeah, Burke's hit a couple. He's had a couple of multi-hit games tonight. Ramos is 0 for 2 with a walk, and Burke is 1 for 2 with a single and an RBI, and he's got a sacrifice fly as well. So there's some good stuff going on out there, and if you watch our tweets at Daily White Sox on Twitter, there's Burke's been making some really nice plays on defense out there. Ramos a little less so. He's got a couple of throwing errors, which you would rather not see. But Ellard,
No,
he's got 2 strikeouts in the 2 guys he's faced so far.
nice.
Yeah,
The main thing to remember about the AFL too is that this is just it's one of those things where the competition, the win loss column really doesn't matter as much as the individual accolades kind of go in the individual developments that will throughout getting these guys to play a little bit longer of a season. Some of these young guys that haven't played 140 games, in the past, getting them into shape, for what's to come in the future for them. And of course, you're also talking about playing against the talent in other organizations that those teams are looking for more out of too. So you're not playing against a bunch of scrubs out there. I wouldn't necessarily call them all-star teams
no,
per se,
yeah,
but these are the guys that are expected to, have some value further on in their career. So you're not playing against guys playing against during the especially at the lower levels where you got guys in A, low A, advanced A, double A that are, probably not going to be somebody,
this guy,
on some of these stats. Why?
John
That's
Rudolph.
a that's one heck of a profile
That
picture
is
there, buddy.
quite the profile picture. He says Abreu nailed somebody again.
So he fights a suspension. They uphold the suspension, but it's to be served in next year's regular
Yes, it
season.
will be
And then
because they are losing 11-3 right now in the bottom of the eighth, and
I guess he said, "Screw it! I'm just going to go out and plunk somebody else while I'm at it."
might as well. Yeah, that's something that we
And Adolis
hadn't.
Garcia is out there hitting bombs again.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we hadn't mentioned that, but it's looking. I mean, unless we're talking about a historic comeback right now of 8-9 runs, and then they shut out the Rangers next inning. Um, you are looking at at the Rangers against either the Phillies or the Diamondbacks. Which the fact that the Diamondbacks are like the fact that they have put up
7.
even if they lose, the fact that they took the Phillies to Game 7 is insane. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. That's like must see TV right there.
This has been a fantastic, absolutely fantastic postseason. I have zero complaints. Tyler the Creator. He is a rapper, and
And
he
here's
is
Dora
Dora.
the Explorer. Very nice. Um,
Um,
yeah, I don't know anything
that's
about
that's
that.
a that's a heck of a combination. Rapper and Dora the Explorer all in one.
It's true.
Shit.
Um,
Ooh, all right.
14 pitch inning for Ellard. 2 strikeouts, 1 ground out where it went off his glove and went to the second baseman, and then he threw it to first for the out. Um, that's just what I deduced from the game day because there is no stream. The next streamed Desert Dogs game is on Wednesday, which I will be watching and be tweeting about. Um, yeah, so Fall League's been, for the most part, I'd say it's been about like other than the Colson Montgomery injury that is a phantom injury that nobody seems to know about. Other than that, um, it's been a pretty good, been about 75% good. Um, there's been some bad umpiring, some bad check swings called on Montgomery. Um, so people that are worried about his strikeout rate compared to his walk rate, the strike zones have been very inconsistent. And I wouldn't really worry about it. So, Brian Ramos was dinged up for a little bit. Now he's not dinged up, and he went and hit a couple of home runs and has been doing some things. Got his batting average up out there, up to he's at 255, 708 right now, which is he was hitting in the 100s last week. So you take that, and Burke is hitting 250. 752 OPS, and you take that, with a great glove and steal.
I was gonna say he throws the weather out there, man. He
Yeah,
really does.
yeah, steals bases. Got 4 stolen bases. Yeah, good baseball
Another
player.
thing that Josh Barfield mentioned in that interview as well, I just want to touch on that real quick, was you know the inability of the Sox to take an extra base or even steal a base in when he did get a base runner on. So when he was talking about adding guys this offseason, or moving some guys up from the from the minor leagues, I expect to probably see some guys with some wheels. Whether it be from within or from somewhere else, but figured I'd throw that out there since you're talking about him doing something on the base pass.
Yeah, and the thing also is, you know, you can't, when we were talking about Popeye earlier, he had 31 stolen bases this year, and had 21 home runs as well. So, I mean, granted, it was spread out across 2 different levels, but it's a 20-30 year. So you take things like that. Um, and, he's got speed, he's got a good glove, and he's got power. So I don't see any reason why he doesn't get to see a thing. Yeah. Pusher brings up that Chapman just hit somebody with a 104-mile-an-hour fastball. That was Chas McCormick on the Astros. And, if this stuff continues for the next, I don't know, inning and a half here, if actually it'll only be like the next half inning, If the Rangers get up and they get hit, the dugouts are going to clear again. There's no way it doesn't happen. Um,
Yeah, right.
yeah, Abreu hit somebody, and then Chapman hit somebody with 104 miles an hour in the leg, and it took McCormick a good few seconds to get up from that. That's yikes.
Well, you got to think too, though, that the Rangers dugout has got to be saying, "Hey, man, let's not let this thing get out of hand because it's looking like we're going to the series, and if anybody gets in a kerfuffle, it's not going to look real good on the organization when you're headed to the big dance." So I'm with you. I think you like to think cooler heads will prevail, but fortunately, when you're in the heat of battle, things can get a little hairy out there. So I hope that doesn't happen for the case of the Rangers, but it doesn't make for bad TV.
Yeah, no. I mean, we'll see what happens here in the next couple of minutes, but I don't pretty much see no way that the Astros are headed to the World Series again, which I'm a-okay with, and I feel bad for you, Pito, but guess what, pal? I'm happy you're sitting home. Um, 'Cause I'll see the Rangers, and
I mean, this is the longest postseason run he's seen in his career. I think,
100%.
and his career is winding down
Yep.
quickly here. So
100%. This is his best postseason, and the thing is that he put in work during this postseason. So, you
he
know,
did. Did.
yeah. I mean, if your team's given up 11 runs, what are you gonna do? So, yeah, I know. We'll see what the World Series matchup is tomorrow when we find out from the D-backs and the Phillies, which has been a fun series. And yeah, I'd say that's about all I got for this week. I'm going to
Yeah.
be making a guest appearance on the 108 here on Thursday night, so that'll be fun.
I'll be sure to tune in for that.
Yeah, it's just doing a little segment here, and we'll talk about some of the things that we talked about tonight, and some of the things that Beef also talked about. With the Josh Barfield stuff and Arizona Fall League and stuff like that. So. If you are so inclined, pop in and watch the From the 108 stream on Thursday at 8 p.m. on the YouTubes. Yeah, so you got anything else this week, Danny?
Oh no. Well, there's one little thing that I wanted to just touch on really quickly here, but obviously we've been talking about the Josh Bar a lot tonight, right? And one thing that he said that kind of made me go, huh? Uh, you know, we were talking about, and we kind of touched on a little. We're talking about Arizona being that team that goes 2 years ago, from the dumps to now being part of a a very highly contested battle for the championship series just 2 years later. And Chuck asked him, like, do you think it's possible for the White Sox organization to see that kind of turnaround? What are we talking about in 2 years? And Josh, I mean, I'm not real sure. I mean, I hope this guy's got a rabbit in his hat, some kind of trick up his sleeve. You're gonna have to be a magician, kind of make that kind of turn. I feel like in the Sox organization. But I just wanted to ask you, what do you feel like? What is your thought on him saying that it is a realistic idea to have a big turnaround where you were talking about possibly winning the division and maybe not a deep playoff run, but you're talking about possibly winning the division and looking at a return to the playoffs in 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that they couldn't. I mean, my only issue here with that line of thinking is that even if they replace a bunch of the roster, I don't think Pedro is capable of doing that. I think Pedro is going to be, even if that happens, like you would never see the White Sox do what the Diamondbacks are doing because Pedro is not capable of doing what Torey Lovullo is doing. You know?
Yeah, I just had to ask. Like I said, I didn't want to lead you too much, but that was exactly my thought.
I'm just
I don't
saying.
have the confidence in
Yeah,
our manager.
absolutely not. I'm right there with you. I don't think that he has the mental acumen to do that with a baseball team. I just don't. Judging from what I've seen and from the lack of accountability from the veterans he was letting run the clubhouse supposedly, and the tire fire that whole thing turned into, I don't see it. And obviously, Josh can't throw him under the bus because it's Getz's boy, so he can't just say, well, yeah, it would be possible if we didn't have this dope running the team, speaking of Pedro, but he can't say that. But I'm sure he's probably thinking it, just like everybody else is. Nobody else has got any faith in this dude. I mean, to let what happened in that dugout happen, dugout / clubhouse, to let that happen, and then say, oh, well, I was letting those guys run it. And that's some sort of excuse. After about 20 games, you saw that was the way that the culture was going. I don't want to get into a big culture conversation right now. We can get into that conversation next week about what the culture is, blah blah blah. But once you see you're about 20 games in, and I forget what the record was at that point, but it was terrible. Once you got to that point and you see that the veterans aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing and the young guys aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, he should have stepped in and done his job as the manager and taken over and said, listen, you idiots, this is not acceptable and this is not the way this season's going. If you think this is the way it's going, let me know right now. I will go talk to Rick and we'll get you out of here and send you somewhere where you think that this is going to fly, because this is not good. But after about 100 games, that's when they started talking about it. And he's like, well, I let them try and run the dugout, blah, blah. It's like, dude, that is not an acceptable answer. That is the answer of a complete and total doofus, Don't tell me that. If you're not a leader, if you let that happen, you're not. If you see that
right.
your players that you thought were leaders, if you get 30 games into the season and you see the results that are going on out there and you don't say, I should probably do something about this, then you're part of the problem. And that's who's still sticking around. And that's an issue. So that answers that question for you, from my opinion anyway. So
yeah, not to mention some of the really piss poor in-game management terrible decisions that we watched. It was like Tony 2.0 in a lot of instances where I was like, again. So yeah, I agree. Like I said, when I asked that question, pretty much you pretty much parroted my thoughts right out of my head when I asked it. It was kind of where I was going with it. And I'm glad that we were able to throw that out there at the end here. But that's it. That's all I had for this week. So.
All right, so WhiteSoxDaily.substack.com is where you can find written material, and you can find this podcast as well as all of the places where you get your podcast. You can see this stream on our YouTube. It will be posted here as soon as this stream is over. It will be available for on-demand stuff. You have a great night, Pusher Robot. Thanks for coming and hanging out.
Hey. We appreciate all you guys that
yeah.
join us in the chat and hang out with us.
Thank you much, Mr. Roodles. Have a good night. Astros, you have yourself a nice good night. And we'll have.
Yeah, I'm not upset about that.
Not upset in the least bit. Tomorrow we will text, I'm sure, over the Phillies and D-backs as we watch what happens there. At Daily White Sox on Twitter. I am Ian Eskridge at iEskridge on Twitter. At Danny Miller at Danny Miller WSD, and I still haven't fixed that stupid name tag on there. I'll get that before next week. I was sitting there screwing with trying to get this chat thing working, but I got it working, so there's that. You'll see us at Daily White Sox on Twitter. You'll see us popping up stuff from the Arizona Fall League as it becomes available. And we appreciate all you. Thanks for following us and all the retweets and everything, and coming and hanging out in the stream and talking in the stream. And you guys have a great night, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks. And